Number 2, SC Cam 17-017, 77 West Main Street, George Marshall, multiple dwelling units in this single building, map 44, block 11, lot 5-2, zone B2.
Chuck Mandel, agent for the applicant. George Marshall, who is still with me here tonight. This application is actually predicated on the previous application, AR 17-016, amendment 27.2.4, receiving approval for this application. This address is 77 West Main Street and is about 21,000 square feet. It's in a B2 zone with public water. We're going to be demolishing the existing non-conforming structure and constructing a 12-bedroom multi-family building that conforms to all zoning criteria, except for multi-use. It will have a footprint of about 43,600 feet, 4,368 feet, with 5 handicap units below and 5 walk-up units. The lower units will have 2 two-bedroom and 3 one-bedroom. The upper floors will be 5 one-bedroom units, a total of 12 bedrooms. We have been before the design review, this application DRB 17-05, and we did have a positive response. It's my understanding that they're waiting for the P&Z action. We are proposing stormwater mitigation for the first inch of rainwater, utilizing subsurface H20 structures, since they will be in the parking lot. And we're providing SU-30 turning for emergency vehicles around the entire structure. Mr. Marshall will also be extending the sidewalks along Route 1 and have a vegetative buffer of boxwoods running parallel to the street. We're going to be incorporating dark sky lighting around the building to reduce impact on surrounding properties. And there will be 6 handicap parking spaces and 16 conventional spaces. We'll have an enclosed dumpster at the northeast corner of the lot. And that's a quick overview, and I'm here to entertain any questions.
We have correspondence here. Letter came in.
Have I seen this, Eric?
This is a letter from Marye Wagner.
Marye Wagner.
Oh, okay, I can see
I
that.
think, honestly, Julie just got it in today, I think. Julie's been out much today.
Well,
I haven't read it either.
oh, okay, well, if we read it now, then we'll all be on the same page.
You might want to have a seat.
That's all right.
32 Waterside Lane is where it came from. Planning and Zoning Commission, 54 East Main Street, regarding 77 West Main Street. Dear Commissioners, I'm writing with respect to the above referenced property and the proposals before you to possibly replace the existing structure with multiple unit dwelling units in a single building. With regard to the amending of section 27.2.4 to allow for dwellings in a B2 zone, I defer to those of you who have a better grasp as to the plans of development that are now serving as guidelines for our town. I previously served as chair of planning and zoning on your commission, but have not kept up with recent changes to our town plan. I am well qualified, however, to speak to the matter of the proposed demolition of the existing dwelling at 77 West Main Street. It is a small structure, but its loss would loom large in our town. Regrettably, this house has no protection from ruin. It is not in a local, state, or national historic district. This, however, does not diminish its significance as an important historic landmark. 77 West Main is an excellent example of a vernacular architecture. Until recently, a wooden sign on its facade proudly noted the date of its construction, 1745. This predates the Stanton House by some 45 years and gives 77 West Main the distinction of being one of the oldest buildings in Clinton. Obviously, the house has been subject to alterations over the years, but important details are still intact. It was probably once a salt box, with its rear lean-to replaced, but the distinguishing features remain. a solid stone foundation now covered over with siding, an off-center entrance with a transom above, also covered over, and a handsome door frame. The low roof line and small windows on the front facade were also typical of this period. Few could afford a full second story, so a half story had to suffice. This was once a prominent center chimney as evidence, there was once a prominent center chimney as evidenced by the centrally placed interior fireplace, a striking mantle of later date encases the fireplace. I am not implying that this house become a museum or its interior return to its original splendor. What I do want to stress, however, is that a significant part of this structure is little changed since its erection some 272 years ago. It stands alongside the post road and bore witness to its rich history. This was the thoroughfare where mail service first began between Boston and New York in 1672. Stagecoach service was added in 1783. Important historical figures passed by this house: Benjamin Franklin in 1753, George Washington in 1789, General Lafayette in 1824, to name a few. The loss of this house would be yet another huge blow to the historical integrity of Clinton. The fate of this structure rests in the hands of its current owner. I am not asking that he single-handedly preserve this house or make financial sacrifices on the behalf. Instead, I am imploring him to explore means by which it could be saved and/or incorporated into this project. Properly executed, saving the building would not affect the project's bottom line and may even add to it. I would be pleased to put the owner in touch with those who could assist at no charge and under no obligation in exploring options available to make the most out of this unique property. There's great promise here, a promise win-win for both the town and the property owner. It is also an opportunity to set a noteworthy example in this historic preservation, which is the ultimate means of recycling. Take what is used and valuable and giving it new life. I will remain hopeful for a positive outcome and committed to assisting in any way that I can save this valuable asset. Sincerely, Marye Wagner.
Just so the commission knows, again, did not happen today because Julie was out sick for much of the day. I reviewed amended materials that were submitted by the applicant. There was an earlier review letter that was sent out from me. At this point, all of my comments from the earlier review letter have been satisfactorily addressed. I have no issues with the present materials as submitted. That said, the fire marshal did not receive these materials until today. The applicant apparently did not transmit them prior to today. So the fire marshal has not yet submitted any comments regarding this application. And given that we're talking about 12 units in the center of town, you can close the hearing and receive it afterwards. The applicant may want to consider whether to leave the hearing open until those comments are received, in case there's any issues out there.
Yeah, well, I can address that. We do have a provision for SU 30, which is a fire truck can get around the entire building, and we show the radii on this. So I really have no issues with if the commission chooses to close the public hearing, because I am fairly certain that we will get a positive letter from the fire marshal. We had submitted that to the town earlier, and it was our understanding that the town would transfer it to the fire marshal. If I was incorrect, I apologize, but we did hand deliver it to the fire marshal today, and he said he would respond. But it's my belief that we will get a positive review, so I have no issue if Eric can receive town staff input after the closing of the public hearing, so I have no issue with that.
Okay. All right. We'll take public comment next. Is there anybody here that would like to speak in favor of the application? Again, anybody here to speak in favor? Again, anybody here to speak in favor of this application? All right. Is there anybody here to speak against the application? If you're against, come on up, sign in, and write your name and address. If there's anybody else that wants to speak against, you can get up now and sign in, and you'll be...
My name is Lynn Davis, 6 Hammock Parkway. And I agree with everything that Marye Wagner has stated in her letter. And I would also make a plea, because we're losing so many historic structures in Clinton. And you're right, we do have an awful lot of vacant ones that I wish somebody would do something with. However, what I would ask you to consider is maybe incorporating this house into the rest of your property, or moving it, maybe using it as offices, just to keep it, this historic building intact. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else to speak against? If not, any general comments?
Sign again.
Again.
Which we record, Michael.
And give your name and address again. What's your name?
Yeah. Mike Milano, 67 West Main Street. So just a couple of general comments. So the first one is about the historic home. And I'm pretty familiar with historic homes because I've been involved in renovating a lot of them and working with them a lot. And I'm very familiar with that specific house there. And I'm not positive, but I'd almost be willing to say it's not on the state registry for being a historic home. It's also been additions and it's been hacked up. It's nice. There's some nice workmanship in it that somebody should think about maybe keeping or moving or relocating. If somebody's interested in the house, I would just recommend, you know, maybe they're willing to take the house and bring it somewhere and pay for it and everything. But just though, you know, my 2 cents worth, there's some nice things on it, but it's in bad shape. So just a couple of general comments on this application. I guess we're hearing it even though it's not allowed because we're assuming, I mean, right now we're listening to something that's not allowed here. How's that working?
Well, if the first application is denied,
Right.
then this application will also have to be denied.
Okay.
We have to hear it, they've applied
Right.
for it.
Okay. So I'm not talking for nothing, but yes, right. All right. So the question I have is, I haven't had a chance, Chuck's blocking it, but I'm sure there's a plan behind it. But is this the only chance you're going to get to talk about this plan and this proposal? Or is this it?
Could be.
If the public hearing closes,
Yeah.
the public's not going to have further opportunity to comment.
Right.
This commission will have an opportunity to deliberate
Okay.
at some future point.
Right.
But if you're asking, will the public be able to comment further? If the public hearing closes, no, it will not.
It has been noticed in the newspaper. It's been available
Yeah.
for several
Yeah.
weeks now.
I haven't, it's just new to me, I just saw this thing, so I can generally comment on it, I already know what the property's about. So the only thing I want to bring up is, when I built 67 West Main Street, there was regulations and things that I had to, you know, go through, and Wade Thomas did a very thorough job on my stormwater program to keep all the water on the property. And mine was based on, I attempted to go the way Chuck's talking about, but mine was based on a 100-year storm, all kept on the property, and to the tune of $75,000 worth of containment, cement containment units that had to be put in. So ears will be open on how we handle this one. The other thing, you know, typical, I know parking spaces and the bedroom count and the septic, Chuck, I'm sure knows everything that's going on with all that. My only concern also is like everybody gets treated the same as I did. So there's a coverage issue that's in that area. I'm very well aware of it. How much area you can cover with asphalt, sidewalks, buildings, etc. And the regulations the way they are, they're not friendly to that. And I ended up having to go get variances for an additional 4,000 square feet of, you know, asphalt. And then when you do the math for all the parking that's going to be required, I believe it's going to, I'm not speaking for you, but it's something that needs to be looked at because that's going to be
We should
another.
have that.
We do object, the original application called for more coverage than was allowed by the regulations. We noted that they had come back with amended plans that show.
Crushed stone or something like that.
Yeah, so they are now within the regulations requirements.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, these are things that I remembered that I was tripping over when I did mine. maybe I'm helping and maybe I'm not.
Can I address some of these comments as he speaks? So, and in regards to stormwater, Jacobson, we know, was very, let's just call it conservative, but there are complications. The state guidelines, we are mitigating the first inch of rainwater, and we do have subsurface structures to mitigate the pervious surfaces for the first inch, and that's what's required.
Okay.
It's, like I said, there's a different town engineer now, so perhaps we've gone,
Is Nathan Jacobs?
right, now, which we put no longer uses.
Okay, all right, maybe it'll be.
So, it will be different. So-
You're a lucky guy if that's the case. Max coverage, yeah, that's what we thought about that. And then the typical, I guess it's all building code items, sprinklers. I know anything over 6,000 feet, got elevators, that's all. So, that's it. And then, other than that, I think the project, I just don't, I guess I can talk on behalf of it, even though I talked previously on the other one. I'm all for something happening in this area, so I don't want it to be construed that I don't want anything there but me, that's not what I'm looking for. I just want some thought to be put into, I hate to see the whole place go, residential everywhere. So if there's a metering device that the town feels comfortable with, and if the numbers work and this gentleman is able to do something nice that functions and there's a need for it, then I'm for it, So as long as it's done properly and the rules are the same book that I use. Thank you.
So you're for the application?
Yeah, I am, but as long as it's done properly, my concern is that it doesn't, the original concept of that area was mixed use, and I'm sure the zoning can figure out if it's going to be a repetitive thing, once you do it, the next guy does it, it's a runaway train. So if they can control that properly.
Which is what we're proposing.
Yeah, you're proposing.
For them to control.
It's up to them to know if they can meter it.
And for the town to control it.
Right, as long as they can meter it,
Yes.
then I'm not against, I want something to happen down there. So that's my, two sides of the coin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that wants to speak? General comments or questions on the application? Any other general comments? Hearing none? Oh.
Yes.
My name is Kimberly Neary, Senancini, 64 Broadway. My family owned, I did not come here knowing that this application was before you, but the address triggered my memory that we actually used to own that building. And I actually served with Marye Wagner on the Planning and Zoning Commission many years ago. And I know she loves her historical houses, and so do I, considering I'm third generation. But I have to tell you, as Mr. Milano pointed out, it is in very bad shape, disrepair. A lot of it is nothing like it was originally, and it probably couldn't be brought back to what it was. I mean, a bank owned it, they renovated it. I mean, we pulled safes and all kinds of things out of there before when we owned it, and it's just not what it was intended to be. But I'm speaking because I do think, again, I'm going to agree with Mr. Milano. Is that crazy? But I think that we really do need something there, and they're not asking for you to change the zone permanently or anything like that. It is going to be a special exception, so there is some discretion on the commission, and I feel like it would be wonderful to have some development there and something nice, and I would like you to consider it. And even though I prefer a mixed use, I feel like in this particular situation, it would be a great fit. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other general comments before we move on? Can I get a motion to close this portion?
Public portion. Right, you bring a motion to close, which is moved to the next one.
All right.
Make a motion to close.
No, I don't have to.
We're just moving to
We're
the
just
next one.
moving to the next one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, do you have comments?
Well, yes.
Yes, this is a mess. Don't go anywhere.
Don't go anywhere. We don't have Julie. No.
This is the commission's piece to
The
ask.
commissions.
We're not closing the public hearing.
Oh, you didn't close the public hearing,
The
okay, that's
public
what I heard.
The public
The
portion.
The public portion.
Okay,
Gotcha.
that's
Okay.
Mike doesn't have anybody whispering in his ears.
Yeah, I don't have to whisper in my ears.
Okay.
All right, any other
Oh, okay.
comments, questions from the commission? All right, Gary?
I think for myself and for the commission and for the public, demolition of buildings. You know, tell me if I'm wrong, Eric. We don't really have anything to do with demolition of public buildings. It can be 300 years old, it can be 5 years old, and somebody goes in and gets a permit to demolish the building. In a special exception, perhaps we might have a little bit of leeway.
Again, you have some leeway because it's a special exception, as has already been noted. This particular property doesn't seem to be on any historic registries or whatever, things of that sort. They are obligated to post it for 90 days before demolishing it, but beyond that, there's no automatic preservation mechanism in our regulations or the statute at this point in time.
But even that 90 days is not us.
No. 90 days is something that they post, they show the building official, that's posted 90 days. At the end of 90 days, they're free to get a demolition permit.
It's not part of this application.
It's
Right.
It's not part of
it's
this.
not part of the application.
Well, I just read a 2-page letter about Lafayette, so I thought it was prudent to bring up just for everybody to.
As an aside, it has been posted, it's probably 85 days, and this is the first we've heard of anything.
Right, well, I've heard in the past, planning and zoning wants to get rid of historic buildings. Nobody here wants to get rid of historic buildings. We don't even
We don't have any jurisdiction.
have any jurisdiction on that, so that's my only comment.
Ellen?
Yeah, I had two things. I guess it's actually for this application that I should clarify that these are not affordable units that would help to meet our requirement of 10% affordable. Yeah, even though you are talking about having them be accessible to the disabled on the first floor, they are not designated affordable units that help us with that obligation.
Correct, they're not, they don't meet the criteria, the state criteria for
So
affordable
approving
housing.
these 10 units adds one to our obligation for affordable units in town.
But it does, but the construction method and having it as all residential lends itself to you save money on construction costs. So thereby, your bottom line, you can have lower rents, so you get occupancy. So they are less expensive than condominium units or whatever. But you're right, it does
My
not
point
meet
is
the
just
criteria.
the
No,
criteria.
you're absolutely right.
All right.
You're 100%
All
right.
right, question two. Your plan here for the second floor, you've sketched out one D unit and then you've indicated that the others are additional D units. However, the D unit that you've drawn is 32 feet in this direction, whereas these D units are only 27 feet long, so it can't possibly
Well,
match.
let me ask Mr. George Marshall is will be builder developer, so perhaps he can answer that question. George Marshall.
Yeah, these are 32 feet long from here to here, whereas these that are also labeled as D units are only 27 feet long. So it can't be, it's got to be a D minus unit. It can't be the same layout, there ain't enough room.
Well, it might not be the same layout, but it could be a few feet smaller.
Okay, so, but it's not exactly a type.
It's like D minus.
It's a D minus.
Okay.
Okay.
We got stairs, so it is a little different.
Well, it's 5 feet, which is fairly substantial in the, fairly substantial percentage of your square footage.
Her point is the layout's going to be the same, but the unit is actually reduced. It could have been designated D.
It should have been E.
D.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. And then the other thing is that I guess you're coming back to design review after you redesign this.
Yeah, we're going to redesign the front a little
the
bit.
front porch.
A little bigger cupola, a couple things.
Okay. All right, just for the record, we did look at this in design review, and we had made suggestions about changing the front porch and the cupola.
Okay. Any other comments from the commission? Questions? Sorry.
So according to, this is from Eric, and this is more for the commission's benefit, we typically, when we're doing this type of application, request a lighting plan, traffic study, landscaping plan, and erosion plan. I think Mr. Milano's already pointed to the erosion plan, but specifically when you're looking at a residential component in any area, you're looking at a landscaping plan to see what type of amenities are available to the people who live there, what kind of green space that they have. So in this, there's not a lot of opportunity for green space in this application, so that's a concern. Seeing as we don't have landscaping plans, it's really hard to tell what's available. And I was wondering if we're going to be able to see a landscaping plan at some point?
There, we do show,
I was gonna say, I'm telling you, look, that was one of Eric's comments, and we did actually revise those plans. I don't think it made it all the way to the commission yet, but it is up here for you guys to review.
The other question I have is specifically on your site plan. The sidewalks, in the past, we've asked that the sidewalks actually are indicated through the driveways so that there is a clear definition for pedestrian safety when you're actually walking across a sidewalk, so a vehicle pulling in notes that you're crossing a sidewalk.
curb stops, that type of thing.
Not necessarily curb stop, you could indicate it's curb stops, but more necessary to actually put the sidewalk through the driveway.
Concrete through pavement?
Right, to indicate the transition from pedestrian to, especially on Route 1, because there's so many curb cuts existing currently.